we could speak now with our Europe editor, Catherine Nicholson, who's at Holyrood, the seat of the Scottish Parliament, for us. Catherine, just how key was the question of another referendum on Scottish independence in this vote?
Well, I think we can say that since Scotland's devolved parliament was set up less than 20 years ago, the question of independence has always been there, and it was there long before the parliament was set up as well, with the dominance of the SNP, the Scottish National Party, in the last few years. Of course, we have even had a Scottish independence referendum in the year 2014, where Scots rejected the idea of quitting the UK by 55 to 45%. In this campaign, one of the major questions is how many seats can the Scottish National Party secure inside the Scottish Parliament? That will greatly determine what happens next. There are 129 seats overall, and Nicola Sturgeon would be looking to secure at least 65 of them to give her that sort of simple majority on her own. Otherwise, she would be looking for support from minor parties. That would likely be the Green Party, who've also a pro-independence party and have supported the SNP in the past. Either way, independence would be back on the table. It's a fundamental principle for the Scottish National Party that they would want to seek independence from the United Kingdom. However, it's not purely up to this Parliament to decide. It's Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, who would get the final say. He's firmly opposed to Scottish independence. He's opposed to another referendum, even on the question. And he said just a couple of days ago, look, now is not the time to be talking about this. He's labelled the idea of another referendum as irresponsible. But, of course, an outright SNP majority would make it a harder argument for Boris Johnson. I ought to say, Nicola Sturgeon herself says that this would not be an immediate question that she would put on the table. It's not even in the priorities for the SNP for their first 100 days of governance. She's talking a lot about getting over the COVID pandemic and winning people around to the independence argument as well. Something that will be interesting will be to look at the second place positions. Where do the firmly anti-independence Conservative Party come? How many seats do they win today?
And Catherine, it must be said that this vote is being watched closely, of course, in Scotland, in London, also in Brussels.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you won't hear many EU leaders talking specifically about the idea of Scottish independence themselves. Whenever I've interviewed anybody from the European Commission, for example, about this, they say, the idea of Scottish independence is a domestic matter, but it could very much become a Brussels and EU matter, because Nicola Sturgeon's first aim is to achieve independence for Scotland. Her second aim would be to rejoin the European Union. Just on January the 1st, when Brexit became effective, Nicola Sturgeon tweeted out, "Leave a light on for Scotland, we're coming back," is her message. Now, that's not necessarily something that's going to happen immediately either. Even if Scotland did vote for independence, there's a formal process of application for joining the European Union. There are some very concrete steps that need to be taken, like setting up a central bank for Scotland, which it doesn't have at this point. Nicola Sturgeon has been asked about this during the campaign. She doesn't necessarily have clear answers on that at this point in time. There would also be questions about whether the other EU 27 member states would want independent Scotland back in the European Union, particularly a question, for example, for Spain, where there are secessionists in Catalonia who look very closely and somewhat jealously at Scotland with this strong independence movement. Would Spain try to veto Scotland rejoining as a way of discouraging Catalans? There are many, many questions. This issue of Scottish independence has huge resonance all across Europe, not just here in Scotland.
And you'll be watching those results very closely for us as they start to come in, we think, on Saturday. Catherine Nicholson at Holyrood in Edinburgh, thank you very much.